So indeed, it is a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure and an honor, and it's a particular honor today because I get to speak before my teacher, my friend, Christine, and the teacher of my teacher. No pressure there, but it's but here I am. So thank you so much. So this past week has really been a scorcher, right? It's kind of like, wow. Every morning I wake up and I kind of think, oh my God, I think I died and went to hell. But thank God for religious science, and I just know that, you know, we don't really believe in that. We leave that to others. Then the air conditioner kicks on and life is good. So anyway, so in thinking about speaking this morning, and I'm always looking for something amusing, and one of the things I find is, I was thinking back, some of you know Reverend Dr. J. Scott Neal, and I always liked him. He's kind of like, for those of you who don't know, he's pretty much the fundamentalist RSI guy. You know, he's right down to earth, never strays from Ernest Holmes, but he always has these funny stories. And one of them that comes to mind, and I've heard him say it a couple of times, is he tells a story about this. After a very long, boring sermon, all of the folks are filing out of church without saying anything, and the pastor is standing by the door, and they're all filing out, and this one gentleman who's always very polite, and he always has a comment for the pastor as he goes by. And today was no exception, so he walks by the pastor and he says, "Pastor, today your sermon reminded me of the peace and love of God." And the pastor was thrilled. He says, "Thank you. Nobody has ever said anything like that about my preaching before. Tell me why." He says, "Because it endured forever." So, well, I can only hope that my words touch some of you and can be somewhat endearing and not forever enduring. So, we'll try to get through it. So many of you know that Maggie and I, we just got back from a wonderful, almost 4-week vacation in France, and we thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. And if you're wondering, the screen is down, but I will not show you 2,400 pictures that we took. We're going to pass by that. But what I will share with you is how we were inspired and how we realized this trip of a lifetime. And so many other things that happened in our life this past year. Hence the title of my talk is Inspiring Dreams. Some of you may remember me telling this story before, you probably hear other venues, about, but I'm going to say it again because it's very relevant and it still resonates with me. I moved to Chico in 2010, and Maggie and I were married in 2011. We were settled into our nice little home on Flying V Street, and my granddaughter, who was 16 at the time, came for a visit, and Maggie started showing her around the house. And they're in the master bedroom, and I can hear them giggling and carrying on, as two girls do, you know. And they were there for a little while. So then when they came out, my granddaughter came to me and said, "Oh, Maggie was showing me her vision board that she had." And I'd forgotten that that we had these vision boards from other talks or other things that we had behind the door in the bedroom. And she says, her vision board is really, really cool. And, you know, and I thought mine was pretty cool. It's got a few pictures here and there and all of this stuff here. And so I said to her, "Well, what do you think? What do you think of mine?" She said, "Grandpa, you need a bigger vision." So, from the mouth of babes, right? So, So over the next couple of years, Maggie and I put together a wish list, and we kind of keep track of all the things that we want to do, and we have a sort of a kind of a mini vision board. Sometimes we put pictures on a bulletin board, and that seems to work out real well. And in this list, we had it was always kind of if it had a theme, it would probably be expansion. And we wanted to expand the house, make the house bigger. We wanted to, build a workshop and a shed, and we wanted to do some landscaping, get a new car, travel, broaden our horizons, and upgrade in the kitchen, all kinds of things like that. So we created our own little vision board, and it was interesting that. We started doing things starting at the top of the list and checking them off as we were going along, small things, big things. Now, neither of us has a lot of money, but we knew what we wanted. That was the key thing. We had no idea how we were going to do some of these things, but one thing that we knew is that we live in an incredibly abundant universe, a very generous universe. And we were open to receive from sources that we had no idea of. So, and then before we knew it, we kind of just let Spirit have its way with us and let it go in that direction. And before we knew it, we started checking off one thing after another, and then there was always, those things were always paid for. Always Spirit came in and did something and took care of that. Including expanding our house 300 square feet and adding on to the back. And some of you have seen that. Also on the list were a couple of photos in a bulletin board there were two big ticket items that were on there that we knew that we would get to. We just whenever the time came. And one item was to get a new car to replace Maggie's '96 Honda that served her well, and the other was a trip to Hawaii. And we didn't know how it was going to do it, but we just leave that to the universe to work things out. Well, over the next few years, we came across offers to replace Maggie's car, and we came across some good deals, but it just didn't feel right, and it wasn't right, and we didn't do anything about that. And people also offered us their condos in Hawaii to stay for a while, but the timing wasn't right, and so we put that aside. But there was always something or some place that called to us in immediacy, where we really enjoyed it, and we just went in that direction. We left things open, but we never worried or fretted about anything because we just knew that we were in alignment with all of our desires, with the things that we put down. And so, in fact, we even, from time to time, we would even stop in a dealership and go do a little bit of shopping and just check out things, and we just knew that getting it set in our mind what it is that we're really looking for, and by the same token, knowing what it is that you don't want. And so we did that, in checking airline tickets and all kinds of things. And in the meantime, we did a lot of other little things, so it worked out really good. Then one day last year, Alex and Maggie were up in Cohasset, and they were driving around out there, and on their way home, I get a phone call. And the engine on Maggie's Honda, why am I having trouble with those words today, huh? On Maggie's Honda, it just overheated, and next thing I knew, they were stuck in a parking lot on Forest Avenue. So I go down there with a bunch of water, and we get everything cooled down. We get the car back home, and so, oh boy, we need to get this into the shop. We have a mechanic in town that we use all the time, and so on a Monday, we got the car to the mechanic, and we got it in the shop, and he says, the engine is seized. I'm not sure if the head is cracked. We're going to have to take it apart to find out. And by the time we pull everything apart, we're talking $1,500 just to find out what's going on. And he said, I'm pretty sure that's done. And it's time to consider getting another car. And Maggie says, well, we've been shopping around, and we know that it's time. And so we decided we're going to get another car. So we got home, and interestingly, Maggie says, well, we ought to, we can look at, we looked at the Prius, we can get a Prius, we can get something else. And I said, well, what's on our list? What is it that we had on the board? And what we had on our list and what we had on the board is that we wanted to get a Camry hybrid. We wanted a new one with all the bells and whistles. I was fortunate to have new cars from time to time. Maggie wasn't, and I just thought this was, you've got to have that at least once in your lifetime, just to go through the experience of just driving carefree and not having a problem, and if something does come up, you go back to the dealership. Anyway, which fortunately never happened. And within a week, we had a new Camry. So we went out and we got a new Camry. And then we started taking short trips. Then we went up to Oregon, and we just had a marvelous time with it. And we still talked about going to Hawaii occasionally, and we still had it on our minds and on our list. And then one day, seems like out of nowhere to me, Maggie says to me, "How about going to France?" And I'm kind of taken aback. I said, "What brought that on?" And so she says, "Well, I was thinking, we can always go to Hawaii. You're healthy, you speak French, your family is from there, you've been practicing your French with your friends and at the Ollie program, the French group with Ollie, why not?" And I said, "Well, why not? Check it out." And just doing that, all of a sudden things start falling into place. Things get into motion. We've put it out there into the universe, and things start propelling themselves. And as I've mentioned, I mentioned it to some of the folks in my French Ollie group and everything, and they gave me some advice. And Jane had a ton of information on it. Thank you, Jane, for all her help. And all this information, and the next thing I know, we were making plans to go to France. And then one night, Maggie was checking accommodations and airline tickets, and she came into the bedroom and woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And she says, "I just found a couple of nonstop round-trip tickets to Paris on an Air France flight for a great price, but we need to book it now." "Okay," I said, "go for it." I just wanted to get back to sleep. And there it was. We're going to France. Now, it's amusing, but if you think about it, how did all of this come together? How did we manifest this? It's the wish list, the construction, the car, the travel. We're not wealthy. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination. We're both retired government employees. So, and on a fixed income. But we're careful, and we're good stewards with our money. We're just ordinary people. But I can't say this. One thing I can only attribute all of this, our prosperity in our life that's just full of joy, is to the belief in this teaching. Truly. The law of attraction brought Maggie and I together. And we have similar backgrounds and a lot of other similarities, not the least of which is being students of Science of Mind, being students of Ernest Holmes, and also studying the teaching of Abraham, Esther Hicks. So really, with all of that, it really made a huge difference in our lives. So I want to talk about that just a little bit. Now, I'm sure that many of you have heard the Edison quote that genius is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. I don't believe that's true. From my experience, I find that it's pretty much the opposite. It's more like 90% inspiration and 10% perspiration. I learned this in my career, and I learned this many years ago, and I was in charge of mentoring a lot of young folks in the Air Force. And what I used to tell them is that you need to work smarter, not harder. You know, it's like there's an old story about this guy who was selling watermelons at a farmer's market. And he has a sign out there, and it said, 1 watermelon, $3. 3 watermelons, $10. So this gentleman comes up there, and he's looking at that, and he's thinking whether he ought to tell him how stupid that sign is or not. But instead, he's going to show him how dumb it is. So he goes up to him, and he says, I'd like a watermelon, please. And the gentleman says, that'll be $3, thank you very much. So the guy steps away, and he says, I'd like another watermelon, please. The guy says, that'll be another $3, thank you. So then he goes back for a third watermelon. He said, I'd like another watermelon. And the guy gives him another watermelon he said, that'll be another $3. Then the guy stands there and he says, you know, I just bought 3 watermelons for $9, not $10. You see how stupid that is? And so the guy says, yeah, he said, looking at him, he said, yeah, he said, you know, that happens a lot. He says, until I point out that you just bought 3 watermelons. So, see, that's working smarter, not harder. Yeah, you know, less sweat, more inspiration. So it works the same way when you want to realize your dreams. It's how the law of attraction works. Hard work, sweat, toil are not necessary. God doesn't play favorites. God doesn't care. Ernest Holmes says in his book on pages 288 and 289, free yourself forever from the thought that God may be pleased by a life of sacrifice, that the world is any better because of your misery, or that righteousness is more perfectly expressed through poverty than abundance. Know that the greater the abundance of every good thing which you are bringing out in your life, the more perfectly you are satisfying the divine urge within you. Anything you can dream, anything you could dream of, is not too great for you to undertake if it hurts no man and brings happiness and good into your life. He goes on to say that you do not treat for the process. You never treat a process. We plant a seed, and there is the seed operating through the creative soil, everything that will cause it to develop, unfold, and produce a plant. The ultimate of effect is already potential in the cause. Abraham Hicks says, it is about sending out rockets of desire and being in total alignment with those desires. It was interesting this morning. I read a quote from Ernest Holmes on the internet, and it went along the same lines as Abraham Hicks in saying that you have to be totally aligned and in vibration with what it is that you desire. So it's not about struggling and working harder. It's not about sacrificing in order to deserve. God is not an ancient, psychotic Greek God. God is not the anthropomorphic being some have created with a huge ego problem that needs to be satisfied before He will give it to you. It doesn't work that way. God, the universe, creation, life itself is divine source, and that divine source is in you already. It indwells and surrounds you, and it is waiting for your command. It's not waiting for, nor does it need you to detail the instructions on how to bring it about. It needs only for you to fully embody the idea that you are co-creating and manifesting what it is that you want. Ernest Holmes says that we never treat for the process, we treat for the outcome. And know that this is so. Anything you can dream is not too great for you to undertake. So I'm going to, just as an aside here, because as I was reading through this again this morning, I thought, if there are things that you desire, whether it's health or finances or whatever, and you're stuck into that appearance of things, and you're praying for it and you just can't get out of it, this is when you need to get hold of a practitioner. This is when you need to have somebody help you to move from that place of appearance to this place of knowing that it can be yours, whatever it is. And that you already deserve it just by being here. That's where you need to really consider getting a practitioner, because a practitioner can see for you the things that you can't see for yourself and will move you off of that place of lack, move you into another direction. So, anyway, pressing on. Anything you could dream is not too great for you to undertake, right? You can have what it is that you want, so dream big. George Lucas says that dreams are extremely important. You can't do it unless you can imagine it. Use your imagination. What are your dreams? What do you aspire to? What is it that you really want in your life? What's on your bucket list? What is it that you need? What is it that you want that makes your heart sing? Do you want better family relationships? Do you want better personal relationships? Better finances, health, more joy, peace in your life? Whatever it is, you can have it. So here are the things that you really need to consider, things that you need to do. Number one is that whatever it is that you want, kind of be clear in your mind and visualize it. Visualize what it is that you want. What does it look like? What would it feel like if you had this? Then you need to accept it and embody it and align with it. You need to believe and know that it is already done for you. I mean, you need to believe that it is absolutely, everything is possible in the universe. As I mentioned before, not having the money, the universe is extraordinarily abundant and can provide from areas that you haven't even considered. Know that you can receive from these sources all is possible. Then you need to go about your life and go about your business like it's a done deal. It's going to happen. You are partnered with God. There is nothing more powerful in you than the Creator. So you get to co-create with that being that you are, that's already alive in you. You need to set it and forget it, like the old infomercials used to say. Don't keep pulling up the seedlings to see how they're doing. You don't peek, which means that you don't have to go looking at your list every day and stop focusing on what it is that you don't see there. Stop focusing on what you don't have. Where your energy is going is what you're going to be attracting. So if you keep focusing on what it is that you don't have, well, you're going to get more of what you don't have. Then what you need to do is wrap your dreams in love and continue to nurture them. Just knowing that what a great life this is. Finally, know that whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is that you desire, that God, the universe, is on your side. The universe is in you. You can't be against yourself. So in closing, there's one final quote that says it all. And it's from Malcolm Forbes. And he says, when you cease to dream, you cease to live. So dream often and dream big. Namaste.